Hi, I'm Danny Pauly, fraternity brother of Dan Yates. And I'm sorry I could not make it out to the roast for the great Dan Yates on his 50th birthday. So I gotta send a video instead. And what I want to talk about is that Dan's life has been mostly fantasy. You know, and I wanted to tell him on his 40th birthday, but nobody would let me. But Dan, you're getting advanced in years now, and it's time for you to face reality. Case in point, Dan loves to play Warcraft and games like this on the computer. In fact, I heard he almost forces his employees to play with him. And, you know, the battle for Azeroth continues over land, sea, and air. Come on, Dan, that's not real. And, you know, it's just a fantasy. Let's look at another case in point. Dan has been doing fantasy things for a long time. Here's a picture of him in our annual of Dan playing Dungeons and Dragons. You know, Dan liked to be the evil overlord, Barbeau Adrian. And for goodness sakes, he's playing with a guy whose name was Slushy. Okay? This is not real, Dan. And I know you wanted to act like you were the lord and ruler and a killer and all that, but it's not real. In fact, you know, one of our greatest things that the betas ever pulled off was that you never really graduated from center. You know, we kind of just made it all up and gave you your degree. And that degree from Virginia, your MBA, it's not real, Dan. Sorry. And all those awards you got in the Navy, they just weren't real. You live in a fantasy. You know, and if some lady in my, you know, I suppose that Dan's already told you about our basketball trip we just recently took to Miami Beach, and there was a good-looking lady that came up to him, and Dan's probably told you all this, that she said he had a nice ass. Well, we know that's not real. Dan hadn't even got an ass. You know, if you want to see a nice ass...
Dad, don't do that.
Sorry,
don't.
Sorry, my daughter's taping, and I didn't want to show that to you. But, you know, even Maggie, you know, Dan, we set that all up too. And so, I hate to be the one to break all this to you. You know, and you're still living other little fantasies too. You know, when Maggie puts that little patch over her eye and plays like a pirate in your bedroom and stuff, that's just not real, Dan. I'm sorry. I know you wanted to be Captain Morgan and captain of your own ship and everything like that, but it's a fantasy. And, you know, I suppose he's probably told everybody too at Miami Beach that there was this really good-looking woman who came up to us and wanted us to watch her stuff for a while, and Dan and I talked to her for several minutes. That isn't real. Especially when you tell my wife, Dan, it wasn't real, okay? Alright, but Dan, come on. I want you to start living reality, man. And I just want to offer a toast to Dan for his 50th birthday. And I know you West Coast people like to drink your wine, but here's some great Kentucky whiskey, and so my toast to Dan on his 50th birthday. Dan, I love you like a brother. And here's to Dan Yates, our real friend.